Hey, it's Bailey Wiki. This is the March 2025 Design With Me series where I build Foundry scenes using free modules and tools. All assets are Bailey Wiki assets available with a 1-month Patreon sub, but these tools work with any creator's assets. So unless I say otherwise, all modules are free. Let's dive into the next map. Okay, let's start by starting with our single diorama template again. And we'll cycle through some of these and see what we've got. And here, just to show you, I'm going to bring up the category browser again. We'll go to our diorama templates. This time we'll find something that is maybe both of these, kind of swamp and forest. And we'll start putting these down. And my idea here is, with this latest release, we've got woodworkers, including lumber operations. And so I think I want to put like a lumber operation out in the forest. Maybe there's humans that have started a lumber operation in a place they shouldn't, and kind of feeling like I want this to be a destination for the players. So there's a bit of crumbling walls. Maybe these were set up haphazardly to kind of keep the woods at bay. And I like some of these tiles. They look like they're sort of shaping paths. So it's created really almost a path into this area. I'm going to select both these in the middle, press Shift D, which puts it in preview mode, and I'm just going to scale it up so that my sound uniformly covers the whole map. Sound comes with the template. And I'll go into crafting and then this carpenter, which is where all the woodworker stuff is. And let's see what we might place in the map here. Okay, so I grabbed this woodworker building here, but what I didn't pay attention to is that I actually grabbed the facade version of this, meaning it's, looks like a building from the outside, but you can't enter it. It's really just a roof with some special walls and a light outside of it. This makes it so it's easy. Facades are easy to spam around a scene without adding too much extra stuff to the scene, like walls and interiors and all that stuff. So let's look up woodworker again. And this time we'll grab the actual building. So this is the lumber building. And we know it's the building because we can see the interior in the thumbnail rather than just the roof. Now what I'm doing is I'm just lining up the walls so that they're on the grid. I may have to adjust some of that later. But I just want the doors and whatnot to be in all the right places so my players can explore it properly. And you notice I just kind of cover some of the map artwork with it. And that's a super effective way to do it, right? I want more of this clearing in the middle. And now I'm going back into the woodworker. I'm going to shrink it down so I can see the labels easier. And I'm just looking for what kinds of things might go on the exterior here. So I think wood piles seems appropriate. And I'm pressing Control Shift and then mouse wheel to kind of cycle through the options. And there's so much to pick from. Here's more wood piles. And some of these are like, kind of like logs being sawed and things like that. So I think we've got some good stuff to pick from in here. I deleted the previous option from the brush, so I'm just working in this brush now. So here's a log that's between two sawhorses. So I'll place that down. Here's a pile of logs that kind of in process of being cut, right? We've got a little saw, some sawdust underneath it. And then we'll put some of these other wood piles around. If you hit shift, it will let you freely place it rather than trying to snap it to the grid, although you can also turn off snap to grid from the brush. And yeah, we're just kind of putting a little wood clutter around here to make it somewhat believable. It's feeling good. Let's recolor our roof. We don't need a bright red roof in the middle of the woods here. So we'll make it more of a muted green. Feeling good. Okay, we'll do our lighting. So you can see I kind of place the major objects around, and then I decide what kind of lights to put in. In this case, we're going to use some lanterns rather than torches. Maybe these lanterns are sitting on posts. And we do have these lamp posts. These are also pretty good. I think maybe we'll just keep going with the lanterns here. Just see how the light casts on the map here. We'll select all of our lights and press Shift E to edit all of them, and we're going to make them all activate when the sun goes down. So these are all toggleable also. When the sun is down and the lights are shining, you can toggle them on and off. Has a little sound effect with it. Sounds like somebody's blowing out the lantern. All right, so let's test our scene so far. Put a player into it and see what we're doing here. We're going to change the ambient sound from more of a desert sound to, let's pick a forest sound. Let's do the Mediterranean forest. And we'll pick something else for the nighttime here. That sound is just a bookmark that I added here because I'm using Ripper's, um, I forget what it's called. It's a better tile picker. I think it's Tile Picker Plus or File Picker Plus. Okay. Now I'm going to look up some sounds. And I just added a saw sound. So as a creator, I'm going to rerun my index and make sure that I pick up that sound. While that's running, I'm just going to manually pick it. I'm going to go into sounds. I'm going to look up saw. I'm using dig down here. Oh, of course, I also need to rebuild my dig down file cache. Otherwise, it can't pick up these new sounds. Just kind of showing you what, as a creator, that I have to do to kind of get things indexed properly. I'll just go manually pick it here, though. I happen to know where it's at in the file system. But for you guys, if you do upload or update my content, you generally want to rebuild your file caches if you're using Digdown. It'll help them get found. So here's a saw on a log sound. And I'll just leave it as, kind of a normal, little sound beacon here where it gets louder as you approach it. Volume easing is what it's called. And instead of the saw, let's pick up the hammer on wood. That'll work. That way, as players are walking around, maybe they hear, hammering and sawing as they approach these things. There's our saw sound, hammer sound, right? Just makes it feel like it's a operating lumber and wood operation. Let's open our category browser again, and this time I want to play around with something here. So I've got this creature sounds. It's like random creature sounds, and so I'm gonna use this. So the way I have it set up is it prompts me to fill in those things. But I'm going to use this as kind of a starting point. I'm going to use different sounds. So there's these creature sounds built into it where you randomly set them off as players walk over them. And they're kind of fun to put into scenes because they let you have sound effects that are truly random because it also depends on where the players are walking. And so I'm going to change that first one to just hammer on wood. And I'll change some of these other ones here. I'll use that saw sound. I like the idea of maybe there's not always a beacon that's going to create the saw sound, but it just, as players interact with the environment, they might hear stuff. And I'm going to change, some of the values here, but I do want to keep the bats maybe, and maybe I'll change this dragon roar to something else. I was thinking maybe I want to use some talking or voices, but nothing's really coming up. I kind of want sounds that are just sort of shorter loops. Some of the creatures here. Some ravens. I think we'll go for that. And we'll set the volume down a little bit so it's not too overpowering. Okay, so far we've got this tile. Now we'll see what happens when we walk over it. Notice we hear that growling in the distance. We'll run it over a few times to see what effect we can get. And obviously we're hearing that growling a lot. Here's the bats. Here's our hammering. All right, so it's generally working the way we want. We might make some adjustments here. Just copied that tile. By the way, these tiles are hidden from players. They don't actually know they're there. They just have to walk over them to trigger the effect. So I'm going to put them in places that are not in the main thoroughfare, but off to the side. We'll make them even more invisible to us as the GM, just so they're not so um, distracting. We'll get rid of those beacons we set earlier. And yeah, we're just kind of testing out what we've created, right? So I'm noticing we're getting that creature sound a lot. So what we want to do is change the randomness that it happens. So let's go up here and let's reset this randomness to something lower, right? So much lower chance of that first one happening. If that one fails, then it goes and checks randomly for the next ones. So we're already, we got a different sound at the beginning. We'll delete those copies and we'll use this now as our master copy. And we'll kind of put them in these little choke points here, which seems appropriate. And we may come in here later and change this to where they only set off a single time, or there's a cooldown period of 5 minutes, or you can do a lot of things to make sure that these don't suddenly overpower your scene. You can also just during the scene, just right click them and disable them. Disable the mat. Now we're exploring the inside of our lumber operations. We see our storage room. Got a little workshop in the back. We've got a kind of a sleeping area for a couple of people who maybe sleep here full time. And now we're just testing out our lights. How does this scene look at night? It's already got the lights built into the building. Got a nice little porch there. We might have some fun interactions on. We see all of our lanterns out here. We're testing them for toggleability. This is good. And we've got this area over here. We've got our little creature sound. This is feeling pretty nice. Got our crows. Get rid of some of our extra stuff here. And yeah, let's see. Notice our crows are crowing for quite a while. Well, that's because the crow sound is very long. And if you notice, in this tile, there's one where it's set just to 6 seconds. And so what we want to do is grab that crow sound, and I'm actually going to apply it here to this one because this one has that 6-second delay or a 6-second max. So what that means is at the end of 6 seconds, it's going to taper down this sound and stop it. That seems a better one to put there. And then we'll just swap that with this other sound of just the saw on the log. All right, so we'll delete our other two and we will copy the new one that we just made, put it in the same spot. That should now make it so our crows don't crow forever. You can see the scene itself we built really, really quickly. Now we're just kind of tinkering around with an interaction that we think might be fun. You by all means don't need to do that. If this is just a battle map and you're just kind of a battle, you don't need to worry about creating some of these interactions. But I thought maybe this could be something that players explore a little bit. All right, so we'll give it a name and call it done.
So that's it for this map. Grab these assets on my Patreon, link in the description if you want to support the channel as well. If you enjoyed this, subscribe, hit the bell for updates, and drop a like or a comment. Your questions actually help the community and the algorithm. Thanks for watching and have fun making your maps.